college football, and I'm the defensive secondary coach here. And what we're going to do today is, in this tape, go over our defensive secondary drills and the techniques and things that I teach in order for our guys to be effective when they go out there on game day. The first thing I'd like to do is just introduce our defensive package to you, just quite briefly. The 3-5-3 defensive package we began running here in 2001. Scott Sloan was the individual here at the time, and he implemented this system. Wanted to be able to create more turnovers and wanted to be able to be more effective on defense. The 3-5-3 defensive package has been extremely successful for us here at GMC. The first year that they implemented it in 2001, we ended up winning the NJCAA National Championship. Within that year as well, they also set an NJCAA national record for least amount of yards allowed. They gave up 676 total yards on the whole year, which averaged out to about 67 yards per game. And also since 2001, with this defense, in 2002, we're the NJCAA runner-up to the national championship. And then in 2003, this past season, we ended up 8-3, and we ended up 11th in the country. Since this defense has been implemented, we've had 8 All-Americans. We've had 2 first-team All-Americans, 3 second-team, and 3 honorable mentions. In 2001, we had the NJCAA Defensive Player of the Year. And then since this defense has been implemented, the whole key is turnovers. We've created 94 turnovers. We've had 60 interceptions and 34 fumble recoveries. So even though we're playing man-to-man coverage a lot, we're able to get a lot of interceptions, and we're able to create a lot of turnovers. Here at GMC, we run man coverage around 95% of the time. The other 5%, we're running 3 deep coverage, but our main thing in what we are is man coverage. The first thing is you have to have the athletes in order to run man-to-man coverage. You have to have the defensive backs that can backpedal, turn and run with the flip of their hips. You got to have great hips. Stop foot, drive foot, which is essentially breaking on the football. And the last one is they have to know their assignment. You have to have individuals that are capable of doing those things. Here at GMC, what we do and what I do is I get with my defensive backs and we conduct everyday drills. And that's what this whole tape is going to be about, showing you exactly what we do every day, which hopefully in the long run it carries over to the field and the guys are able to do these type of techniques and everything as second nature, and they don't have to think about them. The things that we do in regards to daily drills is everything from working on backpedaling, flipping the hips, turning and running, getting those hips loose, breaking on the football, which is stop foot, drive foot. I know everybody has their own way of doing things as far as breaking on the football. Some coaches do it differently. Whatever way you do it is perfectly fine. I'm just going to pass along to you the way that I teach the drills, and hopefully you'll be able to pick up on some of those and use them in your daily routine. The thing about being a defensive back is that, the good Lord made us to where we run forward, we walk forward, and we do everything in a forward movement. As a defensive back, it's an unnatural movement. You got to backpedal, you got to be able to run backwards, you got to be able to flip your hips and turn and run so you can get going forward. And whenever you're going backwards, you have to be in a position in order to break forward at a quick rate, which is basically breaking on the football. It's not natural. It's an unnatural movement. And that's why the daily drills enables our guys to get better at these unnatural movements. Not everybody can backpedal, okay? It's very interesting for me to see in our daily drills whenever I get some freshmen in here that haven't done the daily drills and they're okay at backpedaling, because some of them, a lot of guys do that very well out of high school, but some of them don't. And it's amazing to see a guy start from the very first day and then maybe the third day of practice just working on the daily drills enables them to already become better backpedalers and better guys that stop foot, drive foot, breaking on the football, and that kind of thing. The thing here, though, at Georgia Military College is basically what I do is every day I do the same routine. I don't change it up. Now, some days in regards to the practice schedule, I may have to cut some things out. But the essential things that I'm going to go over with you are things that I try to do every day. How do I perfect the unnatural movement of backpedaling and guys getting used to playing defensive back? The thing that I do is I have a repertoire of about 10 to 15 drills that we do daily. You can work on them as fast as you can. If you want to work on something a little bit more than another movement, then you can always add and subtract however you want to do it. But the thing that I do is basically start out with the stance and then get into our daily routine of our drills. The thing that we do with our drills is every day when we get done stretching and everything, is we come together, and just like you all, you have your own area that you do your drills and everything in when you come to individual. Each day we have around 20 minutes of individual, and I take up that time, usually 15 to 20 minutes of it, just doing nothing but drills. And to me, I think that's the most important thing, and we usually have time in the other parts of practice to where we'll go over what our opponent's going to give to us and what you're going to have to do in order to be successful on Saturday. But I just really think that all through the week we do these drills, and that's going to be the main thing that kind of puts them over the top on Saturday, are these drills. Basically, how we set the drills up is we'll go down there in our little area, and since we only have 3 defensive backs here at GMC, what I'll do is we basically go down there and we use the sideline. That's kind of where we converge. We'll use the sideline and we'll use the yard markers. They're obviously 5 yards apart, and then the hash. So you're looking at around 14 to 15 yards of area here that you're going to work on doing your drills, about 15 yards. And what we do is I get my guys over here, I put the free safeties in the middle, I put the corners on the side, okay? Now these drills, I've become very involved in the drills. What we do is we start out with the very first basic thing of being a defensive back, and that's stance. You can't do anything as a defensive back, in my opinion, without having a great stance. It all starts with the stance. If you're not ready to play man coverage and you're not ready on that given snap, then that could be a big play that's going to be on you. So the thing is, always start out with the stance. And when we get into going outside, you'll see more of what I'm talking about. I'm not a very good example, but you'll see what I'm talking about with my guys in regards to the stance and everything. I know a lot of people have their own ways of doing things. Basically, though, what I do is, since we're playing man-to-man coverage, my corner's stance, their inside foot's always going to be back. Okay, their inside foot's always going to be back, and they're always going to be square to the receiver. The free safety, his outside foot's always going to be back. So depending on what side of the formation he's on or what part of the field he's going to be in, his inside foot's going to be back. That's just the way that I've been teaching it for a while. And the reason for that is when a corner is playing man-to-man coverage, I want his inside foot back. That way, if he's in here, inside foot, and he's got a quick release on a slant, all he's got to do is open up and drive on it. If he's got his outside foot up and he's trying to break on the hitch, to me, the first thing he's got to do is he's got to open up and then drive, and you've wasted a split second. So if you got the inside foot back, he can already go ahead and open up and be effective on driving on the quick slants. That's why I have him have his inside foot back. Same thing with the free safety. I have his outside foot back, so that way, wherever he is on the field, let's say, for instance, that he's got his inside foot up, okay, inside foot back, excuse me, and he's got to open up to the outside third or open up outside real quick. Well, the thing he's got to do real quick is what? Open up maybe and then get going. And it's just a split second. Does it matter? Not all the time, because if you have great athletes, they're going to get there anyway. But that's just something that I want them to always have a constant stance before every snap. And if the free safety has his back foot back, then what's going to happen is if he's got to maybe run to the fade or make a quick outside movement to the outside, he doesn't have to pick that foot up, plant and then drive. He can just go right now. So in regards to the stance, that's how I want their feet. I think that if you just have something that's constant for them on a daily, every snap, then it's going to be second nature to them. The other thing that I do with my defensive backs is the stance. And you'll be able to see it better out of those guys when we get outside. But basically, with their inside foot back, I just want them to barely have their feet apart, and you'll be able to see this outside, and just get in a slight stance and sink the hips and get down with the arms in front of them and get in that position. And when we get into the drills, you'll be able to see those guys do that a lot more. But what I want the guys to do before every drill that they do is they're going to get up here. I'm going to be standing right here, and those guys are going to come over here and get on this other side of the out of bounds boundary. And what they're going to do is every time they come up to the line is they're going to have their proper foot up, okay? So I'll tell the free safety that, hey, I'm in here, so he'll have his right foot up, okay? He'll have his right foot up right here on the line, and the corners will have their left foot up, their inside foot back. And that's where they'll be. And every time I have them come up to the line, that's where I want them to be, with their toes right on the out of bounds marker. And the reason I want them to do that on every snap is what? They have to always be conscious of their alignment. And I think that this allows them to do that, especially when they get tired. Now, the thing that I do with these drills is I want it to be extremely tough for them. I want it to be the toughest 15 to 20 minutes of practice, okay? And the reason that I do that is I want them to make sure that they're getting in shape, and whenever those legs start feeling like jelly from backpedaling a bunch and everything, when it comes to the fourth quarter, they're conditioned to it and they don't get tired. Now, obviously, we do a lot of other conditioning drills and stuff as a team, but I really think that these 15 minutes really get their legs and everything in shape in regards to backpedaling, turning and running and everything, the stuff that not everybody else on the field has to do, only a defensive back. And so I really make these drills tough. I will go the full 15 yards, and it's a conditioning drill for them, and then after that, hopefully the rest of practice will be a little bit easier for them when they get into one-on-one and they get into pass skelly and team situations. But this is how we set up our drills. The first thing that I talked about earlier is obviously the stance. You can ask my guys, the biggest thing that I talk about is you have to have a great stance to begin every play. And that's what I'm going to go over with first, is just starting with our stance. Now, the way we have our drills set up every day, obviously we don't have yard markers here right now, but the cones represent the boundary. And then the 5 yards apart represents each yard mark. And what we do each day, every time they start a drill, they start with their correct foot forward on the sideline. Today, they'll start right in front of the cone. But the very first thing we want to go over is the stance. So guys, go ahead and get in a good stance, corners on the ball. You make sure your inside foot's back, and on the ball, you put your inside foot up, okay? Now, the reason that I talked about earlier, wanting our guys to have their inside foot back, is being able to break on the ball and stuff in case it's a quick hitch, a quick slant, or a quick route, something of that nature. But I'm going to go ahead and let these guys get in the stance, then I'll talk about the stance and how I like the guys to be. So go ahead and get in a good stance, act like you're getting ready to take a snap, okay? As you can see here with all these guys here, all of them got great shoulder position. Their shoulders are over their toes. And the thing that I like about them is their feet are shoulder width apart, and the foot that they have back is basically just halfway between the foot that's up, okay? Gives them a nice, good, compact position. And the thing is, what I try to tell my guys is I want their weight on the balls of their feet. So that would be the balls of their feet right in here. If I had a pin, I should be able to take a pin and rub it right underneath their back of their heels, and that tells me that they got their weight forward. So the main thing is it all starts with a great stance, okay? You guys can relax for a second. It all starts with a great stance. And every time they line up, whether it's in a one-on-one situation or they're playing 3 deep or whatever, I want them to have a great stance. And what I want to do now is I have basically 8 back pedal drills. I'm going to want to go over those with you, and then I have 2 different types of cone drills that I do. And the very first one that I'm going to talk about is backpedaling. Okay? Everybody has their own way of backpedaling, but there's only one way in my opinion. Okay? The thing that we do is I will start them with my motion of my hand. If you have a ball, that's fine. But the thing that I want them to do is when I start every drill, I'm just going to start it with my hand. I don't want them to get used to hearing and going on sound. I want them to go on reaction. Go on the reaction or the movement of a receiver. Don't have to worry about sound. And so what I do is I have them look at my hand. And every time they get started, I want them to always be in a good stance. I don't want them to have their weight distributed in bad angles and things like that. So every time we start, they'll be right down here. They'll have a great stance, and they're waiting on my hand to move. Now, when we backpedal is basically a lot of short steps covering a lot of ground. Okay? You cannot backpedal and brake on the ball effectively. This will look kind of goofy, but if you're always picking up your legs and running backwards, you can't do it. So when you're backpedaling, I want my guys to be in a great stance. And then when they're backpedaling, they're just basically barely moving their feet backwards, barely lifting them off the ground. You know, like in the mornings when you have the dew on the ground, I say, hey, I want you to knock the dew off the grass. I don't want them to lift their feet up real high. I just want them to stay nice and low, keep their feet barely coming off the ground, shuffling backwards, and backpedaling as fast as they can. And what we'll do is we do every drill down and back. Okay? So we'll backpedal here, and then we'll go back and we'll backpedal there. And I know you don't really have a great visual of it right now, but whenever you see the film, you'll really be able to tell how these drills work in regards to the backpedaling. And then from the stance, we evolve into having our backpedaling. Okay? Obviously, it's an unnatural movement. I don't want them running backwards necessarily with popping their feet up or anything like that. What I want them to do, come here, Strick, is get in a great stance. I'll let you see this from the side. Go ahead and get in your stance. He's in a great stance, and then when we backpedal, I want them to take short steps where he's like this and he's backpedaling, not taking big, long steps, because I want steps where he's like this and he's backpedaling, not taking big, long steps, because I want them to stay compact in case they got to drive on the football or something like that. And the analogy that I used earlier, I don't want their feet coming off the ground that much. So what I have them do is I want them to act like we came out here for an early morning practice during 2-a-days and the dew's on the ground. Whenever they're backpedaling, I want them to barely have their feet off the ground where they're just rubbing the dew off the grass. What I'm going to have him do right now is just go ahead and backpedal backwards, and you'll see the type of situation that I'm talking about with his feet not overstriding, staying compact. Ready, go. That's good. About half speed there. But that is what I like them doing. You can tell he's compact. He's got his shoulders over his toes. When he's backpedaling, he's got his arms down to his side, and he's just barely lifting up his feet, and he's going backwards. That's where we start out all of our drills. Now we're going to get into our drills that we do every day. The first drill is backpedaling. And what we'll do is we make it a progression as to the movements and everything that those guys are going to make. So we have backpedaled down and back. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to backpedal, then I'm going to have them turn. Okay? So the guys are going to backpedal, and then they're going to turn in the direction that I point them. So I'm going to start the guys right here. They'll be going backwards, and then I'll make them turn, and they would make a right turn. Okay? If I was making them go backwards, they'd go here, they'd make a left turn. So basically what we're going to do is they're going to backpedal. Once I make them go about 5 to 8 yards, then I'll make them turn. Okay? And the reason I have them using the lines here is I want them to stay on the line. So when I am backpedaling and I turn my hips to turn and run, I don't want to come here and open up this way and have to round it or anything. Basically what I'm wanting them to do is when they turn, working on their hips, is when they turn, I'm wanting them to basically step right behind themselves, staying low, and then bringing the arm around and the shoulder and running forward. I want them just to minimize having to round it off when they turn. So that's why I use the lines, and those guys, when they're backpedaling, they'll pick up the foot behind them and basically get around and turn straight, and they don't waver any way or the other. So that's what we do here. We backpedal. Going down this way, I'll make them maybe turn to their left. And once everybody's done, we'll start back here again. I'll make them backpedal, and then I'll make them turn to their right. So it's the backpedal, then turn, back and forth. The next one is we're going to take it just one step further. We've done the backpedal, and then we've turned one time. Okay? Now the next thing we're going to do is we're going to have them backpedal. We're still going to make them do the same type of turning technique that I made them do before, where they only did it once. This time we're going to do it 3 times. And basically what they're going to do is they're going to backpedal, going to make them turn once, then I'm going to make them turn again, and then they're going to turn and run. Okay? So basically what they're going to do is if right here I'm going to be going back, going to make them turn and run, 1 or 2 steps, make them turn back again this way, and then once again. That really gets their hips going, gets their hips warmed up, and it forces them to stay in a straight line whenever they're turning their hips. And it really works on opening up the hips, turning and running, not going off of in either direction, just staying right in a straight line, working on those hips. And the same thing as we'll do it down and back. And then one of the main key points that I do about these drills that I haven't stated yet is whenever I make them do that last turn, like when they backpedal and they only turn once, or here when they backpedal and they turn 3 times, on that last turn, I want them to sprint 5 hard steps. Finish the drill. Don't want them to turn on that last turn and then just jogging. I want them to turn acting like they're trying to chase somebody on a fade route, like they've just gotten beat. So I want them to finish the drill. So that's the backpedal, and we'll turn 3 times, down and back. What we're going to do first is the backpedal drill. Now remember earlier I said that I don't use any voice cadences or anything like that. I let them look at my hand. I want them to get used to looking at the receiver and going on his movement and not the quarterback's cadence. So we'll just do a backpedal. Usually what we do is we make them go down, then we'll come back. We'll do that going that way, and then we'll come back and you can see it from behind. Just straight backpedal. I'll slow you down. Good. As you can see right there, as they're backpedaling, they keep their shoulders over their toes, keeping their legs in, backpedaling, barely getting their feet off the ground, staying in a nice movement, going backwards. Now we'll let you see it from behind. Same thing going back. Ready? Good. Good. And what we'll do is we'll just do that one. It's amazing sometimes when we first get out here, first day of 2 days, the freshmen come in, they really have a hard time doing this, but after the 2nd, 3rd day, they pick it up and they end up looking like these guys. The main thing too is what I want them to do is I don't want them to false step in their stance. As you can tell right here, all the guys when they started, they were compact and they just went backwards. That's why I want the weight on the balls of their feet. What they'll do is when they start, they just go backwards. If they got their weight backwards, they got to regather themselves in step, and they lose valuable seconds, valuable into seconds whenever they're covering a receiver, and that can be really harmful to them if they false step when they're trying to cover a guy man to man. Okay? Now we'll do these down and back. This time we're going to backpedal, we're going to turn and run. They're going to turn and run the way that I point them. And remember earlier when I talked about them turning, when they're backpedaling and I want them turning, I want them to stay low. Usually we have the yard markers down here, and when they turn, I want them to take this foot that I told them to turn to, straight back like this, right behind them, get the weight around with the shoulder, and they're turning and running. I'll have them backpedal now. When I turn and run them, run 5 hard steps. Go. Good. As you can see, when they turn, all of them stayed nice and low. In their turn, they didn't raise up, they stayed low, and that allows them to have the best position on the receiver. We'll show this one going back to you. Ready? Which way did I turn in? Good. As you can see there, working on their back pedal, then I'll make them turn and run. When they run, basically what they do is they dig that foot right behind them, boom, right here, get that arm around, and they're going in a path that they can be the most effective at, and they're not rounding it off and having to
pop up, stay low. They're always staying low, and it leaves them in an optimal position. The next one that we'll do is this is mainly for their hips, okay? As a defensive back, you have to have great hips. So what we do is we take the back pedal and turn a step farther, and we make them turn 3 times. What I'll do is I'll make them back pedal, I'll make them turn, they'll run a couple steps, I'll make them turn the other way, and then vice versa, they'll turn one more time. And on that last one, they're going to take about 3 hard steps, okay? 3 turns. Ready? Go. Here, stay low. Here, stay low. Turn. Good, excellent. As you can tell right there, they're working on their hips. When they turn, they're staying right on that line, right on the yard marker. They're keeping that foot right behind them when they turn. They're staying low and compact. As you'll see when they come back to you, they never even raise up. Excellent job. Go. Here, here, here. Good, good. Now obviously in a ball game or game type situation, sometimes they may get turned around a couple times. Very rare that you'll see them get turned around that many times, but that's purely a drill that's for the hips. Working on the hips, working on backpedaling and turning and running. So you can see they all did a good job there. They stayed low, and when they turn, what do you see? You don't see them popping up and going down, popping up and go down. They stay one consistent level, allows them to cover their man to the best of their ability.
The next drill that I do is called a weave drill, okay? A lot of people may do the weave drill a little bit differently, but the way I do it is when we got our guys weaving, I want them to always stay square. I want them always facing me. And what we'll do with this particular drill is we'll backpedal, then I'll have them weave this way, backpedal a little bit, weave this way, backpedal a little bit, then weave this way, and then finish, okay? Maybe a little bit confusing right there. But basically what I like my guys to do is when they weave, I don't necessarily want them to where when they lead with their butt. Like if I have them going in this direction and I'm standing right in front of them, I don't want them to weave and go like this, you know, where they're leading with their butt, okay? So what I do is when I have them going, they're backpedaling, and then when I have them go in a direction, they're going to lead with the foot in front that I'm telling them to go in that direction. So if I have them going in the front, going over here to their left, then they're going to keep this left foot in front of them and just slightly move from side to side. If I go the right, they're going to be backpedaling, then the right, bring the back foot right behind it, trailing, staying square, moving their arms, reading the quarterback, which I'm playing. The reason I have them stay square and everything is I believe that allows them to stay in the best position on breaking on the football. If you're weaving like this and you got to try to break over to here, then you're going to have to stop and go this way. I just think it's awkward. That's not what I teach. So if they're coming here and they're staying square and they got to drive, then boom, they're right here in a great position to break on the football. And that's the way that I teach the weave. The way we do that is we'll backpedal, we'll go down, turn it around, and then they'll come back. It involves the backpedaling and the weaving and the backpedaling, so they're still getting the good work on backpedaling and then having to do different things out of that backpedal.
Now the next one that we'll do is the weave drill. I do the weave drill a little bit differently than other people. As I stated earlier, when I got a guy weaving, I want him to always stay square to the receiver. We do this in mirror drill, and whenever you mirror the release of the receiver like in one-on-one coverage. But what we like to do here is the weave drill. It's a little bit different from what some people do, but basically what I like to do is when they weave, if I point them in this direction, they're going to lead with the foot that I got them going. So if I got them going to the left, they'll lead with that left foot, always staying square, and they'll bring that next one behind you. Then I'll have them backpedal, and I'll make them come this way, and you'll see how they do that. The reason I like them to do that is in case they're doing that in the game and they got to drive on the hitch or they got to drive on the football. If they're right here doing this, boom, they got to drive, boom, they're right here and they're able to drive. What I don't like seeing them do is when I have them weaving and the guy puts his butt like this, making like an S like a snake. I think if people do that, I'm not saying it's wrong, but I just say I think if people do that, just doesn't allow them to break on the football as effectively. So we'll work on the weave drill. We'll do this going down and back. Ready? Go. Good. Excellent job. You can see each way that I point them, they lead with the foot that's up front. And what did you notice there? That their shoulders always stay square to the quarterback or to the receiver that they're covering. We'll let you see it coming from behind. Good. Good. Nice.
The next drill that I do is the speed turn drill, okay? Speed turn drill, in my opinion, is a movement that DBs use like when they've gotten beaten inside and they have to get over the top and regain some ground. The way that we do that is when they speed turn, I'm going to have them backpedal. I'm going to have them go 45 degrees in a direction that they're going to run. Then I'll make them turn back around and speed turn, okay? Basically what I have them do is when they're backpedaling, they'll backpedal, then they'll like go at a 45-degree angle, and then when I have them pointed the other way, what they'll do is they'll get their head around and they'll speed turn over the top. I believe that's the most effective way to regain ground, especially if you've gotten beaten inside and try to get over on top of a receiver.
Now the next one that we'll do is we'll do speed turn. Speed turn. This basically works on if you're a DB and you get beat to the inside. So if you're in man-to-man coverage and you get beat to the inside on a post, what I want my guys to do is speed turn, get that shoulder around, head around, get it right back on the receiver and work for the upfield shoulder. I don't want them, they get beat inside, they're right here. Instead of speed turning, the guy goes inside, he's got to stop and come here. You fall over yourself and you got to get restarted all over again. You lose valuable time, and the guy's usually going to run off from you. So we work on the speed turn here. I make them backpedal, go at a 45-degree angle, and then I'll make them speed turn. On the speed turn, I want to make sure that they stay low, they get their head around, back on me, the quarterback, then they work about 5 hard steps over the top of the receiver. Ready? Then I make them turn. Ah, it's all right. Going back. You can see this from behind. Go. Here. Go. Good. Speed turn. Good. Good. And that's the speed turn. Now with what happened with this gentleman right here, if we're doing drills and everything and we have a guy slip down, I don't care. You're going to fall down. In a game, how many times are you going to fall down? The main thing I like to emphasize is if you fall down, it's how fast can you get up and still carry out your assignment. There's nothing wrong with falling down. If you do, hop up and continue on with the drill. Okay?
This next drill, it's called backpedal, shuffle, and run. Pretty simple, but this is probably more for the corners. Like the weave drill was probably more for the free safety, working on getting to the middle third of the field, and for the corners whenever they're having to weave and mirror their man, and when they're playing man coverage. This backpedal, shuffle, and run is probably more for the corners in regards to 3 deep coverage. And I still have the corners doing, the free safety doing it as well, but I have them, what they do here is basically they're working on their 3 deep technique. What I have them doing is I'll have them backpedaling, and then I'll have them shuffling, facing in towards me, staying low. And then I'll say turn and run, and they'll turn and run like they're running on a deep route. Okay? 3 deep coverage. I'll just draw half of it up over here. Let's say right now that this is cover 3, and this is why I teach this. Depending on the split of the receiver, if we're playing 3 deep coverage, then this corner is basically responsible for this whole outside third. Okay? And the main thing in cover 3 is he's got to see that quarterback. Okay? He's got to see that quarterback. And basically what we do is we backpedal, shuffle, keeping their eyes in on the quarterback. That way they can read number 2 on their keys. Okay? So basically what we do is backpedal, shuffle, and then we have him turn and run. And that's where it evolves into right here with the 3 deep coverage. Okay? So that's what we do over here. Back pedal, shuffle, then turn and run. We do that down and back.
What we're going to do now is we're going to back pedal, then we're going to turn. When I turn them, they're going to shuffle. And when I tell them to run, they're going to run. As you'll see, we'll all turn the same way when we shuffle. Okay? I'm the ball over here, so I want to act like I'm the ball that's inside and they're all outside of me. So I'll start them from over here. When I tell them to shuffle, they're going to shuffle. When they shuffle, they're going to keep their feet under their shoulders. They're never going to take big, long shuffle steps. They're just going to stay right here, keeping their shoulders under their feet under their toes and shoulders. Okay, so what we'll do here is we'll do back pedal, shuffle, and run. Then I'll make them shuffle, turn and run. Then they'll turn and run. So you can see that one. I'll make them back pedal, then I'll make them shuffle, and then acting like they got to go run on the deep fade route. We'll do that coming back. Then I'll just stay on this side, that way they can do it the other way. Ready? Go. Shuffle, turn and run. Good. And that right there is the working on the 3 deep corner where he's getting back in his zone, shuffling, reading through number 2, seeing if anybody's going to threaten his deep outside third, and then turning and running in case the ball is thrown.
The next thing that I do is I take the back pedal, the shuffle, and instead of turning and running, I make them drive. And what this simulates is the corner having to drive like on a flare route or the hitch by the number 1 receiver or the number 2 receiver running a flare route. Basically what I have them do is the same thing, back pedal, shuffle, and while they're shuffling, then I make them drive like they're driving on a hitch route. And we'll do that twice. So what we'll do is basically that corner is going to be here. He's going to be going back pedal, and he's going to shuffle, staying low, and then I have him driving on the hitch. And that just simulates them having to drive up on that hitch route, because that's the thing that you give up in 3 deep coverage are usually the flat routes. And if that quarterback 3 steps and throws it to that hitch, we want to get up there as soon as we can and tackle him before the guy makes any yards after the catch. So that's the back pedal, shuffle, and drive.
And we'll act like that they're backpedaling, they're going to turn and shuffle, and then act like the hitch is thrown. Now what I usually do is I usually don't want to tell them, hey, come here, or make them break. Every time I make them break, what I'll do as a coach is I'll just turn my shoulder, and that means that quarterback has looked out there to that hitch and he's getting ready to throw the ball. We always want to break on that quarterback's shoulder or his release. And that's how I make them break. I don't say break or tell them anything like that. So right here. Okay. So. Good. Then come straight back down for the hitch. Come straight back down. We'll do it from this side where you can see it the other way. This makes them turn in another direction. Then they'll read the shoulder and they'll drive on the hitch route. Then they drive on the hitch, drive all the way through. Now we're not necessarily doing all these drills full speed right now, but the point of emphasis that we do, and I talked about earlier, is we want to make sure that these drills work on conditioning, okay? We go for about 15, 20 minutes, and every time we do these drills, I'm always wanting them to finish the drill, make sure that they're sprinting through the cones and things like that.
The last 3 drills that I'm going to go over, 2 of them involve cone drills, and this last one here involves backpedaling and driving at a 45-degree angle, okay? The last 3 are used for breaking on the football. That's the emphasis, as well as backpedaling, but then at the same time I use it for conditioning. Like I said earlier, I really believe that the guys, the harder they work during practice, the easier the games are going to be, and I want those guys to be in shape as far as physically in regards to their legs and stuff, especially if they've been back there backpedaling all day long, using the different types of movements that you have to use as a defensive back, and I'm wanting those guys to make sure that they're in shape. The thing that we'll do is we'll go and do the 2 cone drills after we do this one. And basically here what I have them do is stop foot, dry foot, and it's just kind of the beginning basis of it. A lot of coaches, they have their own way of doing that. The way I have my guys breaking on the football and the way that I have them doing it during the drills is I want it to become second nature to them when they're out there during a game. The way that I have them stop foot, dry foot is probably different than some people. Some people do the T-stop, that type of breaking on the football, but what I have my guys doing is basically they're gonna be right here, they're gonna backpedal, and when I tell them to drive, if they need to get over here to a 45-degree angle, what I do is have them get their hips around and get down almost like, have them drive it, then boom, right here, and I always make them put their hands on the ground. And it's amazing to see those guys do that during drills and everything. Then you watch a game and where a guy falls down, and since he's been used to putting his hands on the ground, it's second nature to him. They put their hands on the ground, they pop up, and they haven't lost any steps at all. And I think that's crucial whenever they're covering a guy man-to-man or trying to get to their responsibility. So basically when the guy has stopped, I want it to look like a track guy that's in his stance, coming out of the blocks, and then he drives. And you'll see how that plays in when we do the cone drills, and then also when we do this one. And right here, what they're going to do is I'm going to backpedal them. Then when I tell them to drive, all three of them are going to backpedal. Then I'm going to make them drive at a 45-degree angle over here to the next yard marker. Okay, so they'll be at a 45-degree angle, coming here. Then they're going to shuffle in here. Shuffle, and they're going to get back in a perfect stance. Then I'll have them backpedal again. Then they're going to drive over here to this 45-degree angle, shuffle, get back in a perfect stance, and then they'll be done. All that's doing is working on shuffling, working on backpedaling, working on stop foot, dry foot, breaking on the football, and that's what that was for at the same time, conditioning. And that's what I use all with the boundary, the yard markers, and the hash.
Now we get into more drills that work on our stop foot, dry foot in regards to breaking on the football. What we'll do right now is when I make them drive at a 45-degree angle, I do it a little bit differently than other people. Now, if you incorporate the T-stop break or that kind of thing, and the way that you do drills, that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that, and people are extremely successful with it. But what I do is when I make them stop foot, dry foot, I want them to get their hands on the ground, get their feet turned around in the direction they want to go, and basically when they're driving, I want it to look like they're coming out of the blocks like a track runner, okay? So what I'll do is we'll start back right here. When they drive, if they're like going to this cone right here, I'm going to want them to get their feet around just like this, a short hop. So they'll be just here like this, boom. Then I want them to go on the ground. The reason I want them to do that, I know in a game and stuff, they probably won't put their hands on the ground. But out here, when we do it every day, it kind of becomes a second-hand nature to them. So if they're coming right here and boom, they're getting their hands on the ground. I look like I'm a track athlete. The thing is in a game, if they're back here and they drive and they slip, boom, they're used to putting their hands on the ground. They can pop right back up and still drive on the football. Now other people, they're here, they'll do the T drill, where they, boom, stop right here, make a T. Nothing wrong with that. That's just not the way that I teach it. But what we do is we start getting involved in our stop foot, dry foot, breaking on the ball drills. This one here, we do this one first, and then we go to our 2 cone drills. But this one first, what we're going to do is we'll backpedal. I'll make these gentlemen go about 5 yards, and then I make them drive to the cone that's to the left or to the right of them at a 45-degree angle. So basically what will happen is I'll make these guys backpedal right here. I'll make them stop foot, dry foot, sprint to here, and they're going to get right here, and they're going to shuffle right in here, and then they'll get back to right here, and they'll start over again in a great stance. Then I'll start them back again, and they'll do the same thing this way and finish on the cone. Usually during this time of the practice and in their individual drills, those legs are starting to feel like jelly because backpedaling is a difficult movement for them to do. It works different muscles and everything. And this is kind of where the conditioning factor comes in. I want them to know what it's going to feel like in the fourth quarter when those legs feel like jelly. I want them to fight through it. So at the end of the game, like I talked about earlier, those guys are saying, hey, throw it to my guy. I'm not tired. I'm going to make the play that wins the game. So I'll show you this one drill here, and then we'll get into our cone drills. Y'all remember this one? Go. Drive. See the stop foot, drive foot, they're staying low in their shuffle. Good, then I get them back here and they start again. Go back. Now bring them the other way. Good job. Then they'll come in. Right there, they'll get in a good stance. Then I'll release them and they let them go. If you see whenever they're doing the stop foot, drive foot, all of them are staying low. When they get back there, all their hips and everything are going in the direction they want to go in. They're staying low, and all of them are putting their hands on the ground, and they look like they're a track athlete coming out of the block.
The first cone drill that I make my guys do is called the M drill. It's essentially called that because the guys look like they're making an M whenever they're doing the drill. But basically what I do, you can do this either way. I usually gas my guys pretty good in the rest of the drills, so what I'll do is I'll only set this M drill up at about 5 yards all the way across. So it's just a 5-yard square in diameter. You can make it harder if you want to and make them go at 10 yards. The wider you make it, the harder it is. But what I'll do is I'll make my guys, we'll set this up at 5 yards all the way around. What I'll do is I'll get a straight line. My guys will get in a straight line. The first guy will come right here, get his inside foot. It doesn't really matter here in this situation to me which one he puts up, but I do want him to make sure he's in a good stance. Okay? What he's going to do is he's going to back pedal. He's going to stop foot, drive foot, the way that I just talked. I want him to get down, put his hands on the ground, make it look like he's coming out of the blocks like a track runner. Then he's going to come up here, and when he gets just past this middle cone, he's going to flip his hips around and get going back in this direction. So when he comes up to the cone in here, I want him going back in that direction as fast as he can. So the best way to do that is come down, stay low, get those hips around, get those feet pointed in the same direction, back up towards this cone. They'll get right here, then they'll do the same thing. Get those hips around, get those feet going back in that direction, and they run through. That's called the M drill. What does it emphasize here? Just emphasize backpedaling, stop foot, drive foot, which is braking on the football. Same thing here. Running up like the guy's going to make a play, maybe on a run or something. Next thing you know, maybe he's broken loose, he's got to stop, change direction as fast as can. And that's what that works on there in these two spots right here. Then finish the drill. They got to run through this last cone. If I have a guy that doesn't run through that last cone, then he's got to go back and do it again. And then we do both of these drills down and back. So he'll go start over here, then they'll come back and they'll go the other way.
Next thing we'll do is we'll do our 2 cone drills, working on the same thing. This first one here is called the M drill. I'll get this one set up. Basically what you do is you just get 5 cones. You can put them as far apart as you want. I usually just put them at about 5 yards all the way around. If you want to get more conditioning out of it, obviously you can put them at 10 yards, okay? Sometimes the time isn't feasible for you to do that. But right here we'll do the M drill. This right here is basically working on backpedaling, stop foot, drive foot, conditioning, change of direction. Now all the guys will start on this cone right here. They'll backpedal, do the same stop foot, drive foot, boom, come right here. And when they get to right here, they may be running down to make a play, and all of a sudden the ball spits out or something like that happens. Well, they got to get going back in this other direction. I don't want a guy coming up here and having to round it off and everything like that. You waste valuable time. So what we do is when they come here, they're going to get their legs around, get their hips around just like this. So they're going to get their feet pointed in that direction right there. They're going to come down, boom. They're going to get their feet around, get low, and they're going to put that right hand on the ground, boom, here. They're going the next direction. They'll come up here, same thing. Boom, get down, and always make them finish through the cone. Always emphasize finishing the drill. If they don't run full speed through this cone, I make them go back. So what I do is the first guy's going to go, and when he's headed down towards this middle cone, the next guy goes automatically. And these 3 guys will demonstrate that. They'll go full speed, and I'll kind of point out some things as they go. So you see here, good back pedal, nice stop foot, drive foot, getting the hips around, and finishing the drill. Good. Good. That's great. And what you can see there is whenever they do the stop foot, drive foot, they're getting their hips around, they're getting those feet going back in the other direction that they want to go. They're always staying low and everything like that. Then we'll make them go at doing it back. So let's go back, guys. And usually what I like to do sometimes, if you want to, hang on, sometimes is basically when they're running this way, you can even stand here if you want and just hold your hand out. You want to make sure that they're always low, because if they're standing up too high, then they're not getting the best effort out of the drill, and they're staying too high, and in turn, when you're too high, sometimes you can't make plays. So we'll do the same thing going back. Stop foot, drive foot, good. Coming in the middle, stay low, don't pop up, and then they finish. See him get his feet out right here, and he's driving through the cone, same thing here, and then they finish, okay? Basically, that's the M drill. I think it's a very good drill on working on conditioning, as well as working on breaking on the football, working on your hips, working on change of direction, and things like that.
The last daily drill that I have them do in regards to backpedaling and the cone drills and everything is basically a 4-cone drill here, and I just call it stop foot, drive foot drill. Basically, this is working on breaking on the football. At the same time, at this point in the day, within these drills, we've probably done about 15 minutes, 10 to 15 minutes of drills, our whole repertoire. And basically what we've done now is we get to this last drill, it's kind of a gut check for my guys. I've said it before and I'll say it again. I want those guys to get to where when they get tired and their legs feel like jelly, that they can step it up and they can go ahead and make the play whenever they need to during a game. So this right here, this last drill is pretty much a gut check. Same thing with this one. Usually I start them right here, 4 cones, all right, and we'll use the yard markers here. We'll use the yard markers. This is at about 5 yards, okay? You can also use 10 yards if you want to. Usually what I do is I make my guys just do the 5-yard right here, okay? So what we'll do is this guy, the first guy will start right here, a great stance. He's going to backpedal. Once he sees the 5 yards in his peripheral vision, he's going to stop, get his feet around, just like he did in the M drill, and come up here to the 45-degree angle. What they'll do here is they'll come to the inside of the cone, and I'll make them get in a great stance again. And it's pretty quick. They'll come and get in a great stance, he'll backpedal, turn his hips here, great stance, backpedal, then he finishes through this last cone. So it's basically 3 5s that he's got. Got a backpedal for 5 yards, drive, backpedal for 5 yards, drive, backpedal for 5 yards, then drive through the cone, okay? The thing is that you can make this as hard as you want to as a coach. Like I said, it is for conditioning, and at the same time, it works on the backpedaling, turning, driving on the football. Now, the thing that you can do here, though, is that you can really be a stickler if you want to, as far as the stance. Making sure that they always come to the inside of the cone, things like that, because what happens? With all your guys, when they get tired, they don't think. And if you really want it to make the drill to where they're also concentrating when they're really tired, you can make them say, hey, this is where I want you driving the day. Make sure you go here. You're going to have to do it over. So we'll do this drill down and back. And like I said, you can make it as hard as you want to, or just, you can let them get through it and not have to be a stickler about where they drive and that kind of thing. But this right here is a great drill for driving on football and working on backpedaling skills.
This is just basically called a stop foot, drive foot drill. This basically is working on the same thing. Now I won't have these as wide. You can have them every 5 yards if you want to. What I do though is I usually go about every 3-4 yards right here, sinking it in here just like this. Like I said though, if you're really wanting to use it for conditioning, you can widen it out to 5 yards intervals in between. But basically what we do is we just put it about like this, and we'll make them go from there. And like I said, what I said was we're going to go every 5 yards, 3 5s. I'll say my guy, all right, stop foot, drive foot, we got 3 5s. I'm going to do it with my back face, with our backs facing you. That way you can see it from behind and see at a good angle, the stop foot, drive foot. Bottom line though is always make them come to the cone. That's where they're going to stop. Always want to start the good stance. They're going to come here, they're going to back pedal. When I tell them to go about 5 yards, they're going to stop, boom, stop foot, drive foot. They're going to run up here, get restarted again. Then they'll do 2 more 5s. And that last 5, they're going to sprint through the cone. Okay? We'll do this going down and coming back. Like I said, if you want to get more out of it, you can spread it out. But we're going to go 3 5s. Usually what I do is the first guy goes. When he's driving down towards here, the next guy's going to go. What I want you to watch here when you're watching the tape is watch the feet, getting the feet around, stop foot, drive foot, putting their hands on the ground, and how fast they get going in the other direction. So let's go ahead and start it off, guys. Good. Always staying nice and low. Good stop foot, drive foot, keeping their shoulders and over their toes and keeping their feet underneath them when they drive. Good. Good. Excellent. Each way, their stop foot, drive foot, getting their feet and body positioned at an angle they can break on the football as effectively as they can. We'll do the same thing going back. Nice back pedal, stay low, keep your shoulders over your toes. What this does too, like I said earlier, is conditioning. Right now, their legs are feeling like jelly, okay? They're really having to work and dig down deep. It's kind of a gut check type of thing, okay? But what it does is works on getting those hips around, stop foot, drive foot, and breaking on the football.
In conclusion, I would first like to thank Championship Video for giving me the opportunity to relay to you all out there the different types of drills and things that we do here at GMC. Also to Coach Williams for giving me the opportunity to speak with you all. But the main thing is hopefully with these technique drills that I have my defensive backs do, hopefully you can view the tape and pick something up. If not a bunch of things, maybe just one thing that you can take with you and end up helping your guys out later on down the road. I'm really a firm believer in a defensive back has to have great technique and has to be a person that really has a good head on their shoulders. And I think that these drills and everything provide that. They make them concentrate when they're tired, and we work on every aspect of the different types of maneuvers and everything a defensive back has to do. And I think that these drills will definitely benefit you if you choose to use them. And once again, thanks for your time.